Today, today is December 7th. It's a Saturday. It's 3:59 p.m. It's amazing to me that it is very, very amazing. It's incredibly amazing. It is one of the most amazing things that I've ever experienced in my life. And what is that? Why? Why do I think that it is the most amazing thing that I've ever experienced in my life? Because uh, there is a thing there is a thing that happens to me that I was not aware of, and then making that slight adjustment uh, made the difference in me thinking a little bit deeper about day trading. So it's part of the risk factor. Risk. It's a risk. So what I've noticed about risk is that due to that risk factor, uh, and due to the risk factor, I was unable to see for 300 prop firm challenges. I was unable to see it. I was unable to see the impact of risk involved in day trading. It's amazing to me. It's a personal journey. It's a personal experience, and God created a me. God created me to be unique, and therefore, I was unable to see what I should have seen, that most and vast majority of people should have seen a long time ago. So, if a normal person saw this on the first three prop firm fails, then that person would have analyzed the data and figured out the correlation between the risk and the loss and would have stopped right there and then. But for me, it took 300 prop firm challenges, okay? 300 prop firm challenges lost. And uh 300 prop firm challenges essentially. So here's the situation, and I have to document this just to make sure, okay? So what happened is that I would go through a trade, I would risk it, and the trade would go against me, and I would lose big. And the other factor is I would lose it more than once, okay? More than once. And then I would lose the challenge. And then I would buy again and do the same thing over. And then I would do that again over 300 times. Then I realized, then I don't know. Well, it's okay. So apparently it's like drawing a line, okay? Drawing a little line with an ink. And you put a little ant on it in the middle of it, and you draw a line around it. What the ant will do is it'll go to it, and then it'll stay stay within that circle. It will not be able to jump across, even though it's an ink and it can go right across it. But if I put another ant on there and I start drawing on it, and the ant would have a momentum to cross it. And so when that ant crosses it, then it knows that it can go cross it. So the distinction between the ant that knows and the ant that does not know is essentially experiencing a crossover point where a clear distinction is made. Okay? So there's a clear distinction between knowing and not knowing about a particular situation. And this particular situation, to me as a day trader, is risk. The risk. The risk sets in motion a totality of all the losses that I've incurred. Okay? So how did I figure? Okay, so So one day, God told me, it's certainly not me. It's certainly not me could think about something like this. God told me this. He said, you need to focus more on day trading. Okay? You need to focus on day trading more at the cost of you washing dishes. What that meant was that now that I look at it, now that I experience it, now that my thinking has improved, the fact is I was working 6 days a week and washing dishes feverishly from beginning to the end without it. I mean, it's just like nonstop. And I did that for 6 days a week. Okay, and I was trading 5 days a week, and so I didn't get much sleep at all. Okay, and so what happened? It seems to me what has happened to me is that I was like sleep deprived. And I heard from neuroscientists saying that sleep is a very important part of the health of the brain, apparently. And because I am somewhere near the normal human being and not a genius, and my body is not superior in any way, I was prone to my physical and mental exertion. And so now that I have reduced my hours, now that I've reduced my hours as a dishwasher, I'm able to take longer naps. I'm able to focus more intently and in more critical ways of day trading. And so now what I've observed is this, that I could not observe. And I did, if I were to have analyzed the data, if I knew what to look for, okay? If I knew what to look for, I would have found it. But it never occurred to me to look there. It's like, I suppose it's always going back to like see there's a I think it was like there was a TV show. There was a cable TV show called what is it, Jade something, right? Jade Mining or whatever it is. And they know precisely which locations have certain mineral bearing areas where jade is found. And so they go to that area and they start digging in that area, and sure enough they find it. But if they were to go in the desert and look for jade, they're not going to find it. So they go to an area where they find jade. And so what happened was, for me, I heard that it takes certain people $100 or certain people $1 million to figure this out. For me, it took about $20,000 to figure this out, and 300 prop firm challenges and 2 years of my life. Okay? 2 years of my life, which I am 55 years old, and time is a very, very expensive thing. So what I found out is that now that I have been able to catch up with my sleep, I can now critically think about the data that I have, just mentally speaking. I didn't have to write it down or compile it or something, but it's me thinking about it and then seeing how important risk management is. I didn't realize that. So the simple fact is this. Now, when I put on a trade, it could either go up or it could go down. And so when it goes down, and if I have max lot that's set, then it's going to trigger at least 3 things. At least 4 things, actually. 4 things. It's going to trigger at least 4 things based on the risk that I have. The risk that I have is going to trigger 4 things. Okay, max loss, daily loss, consistency rule, 2-minute consistency rule, high frequency trading. Okay, those are the things that would cause me to. So if I have, for instance, if I put like max lot on there, and if it moves against me, then I have to close it out. Otherwise, it's gonna trigger the other 3. So that means it's gonna fail. It's gonna breach the HFT rule, which is I have to hold on to something for 15 seconds. But if I max it out, then that 15 seconds can't be weighted because it's gonna move so much within that 15 seconds. Okay, it's so simple. Also, there is this consistent rule, which is about 2%. Any trade, I cannot lose more than 2%. That means that I have to account for the movement of the trade going more than 2%, which means that I cannot put max risk on. I cannot put max risk on, because that max risk is going to cause a breach of any of those factors, especially the 2-minute 2% rule, which is the consistency rule. So there is that possibility. So the connection that I made that I was not able to make, it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. It's like knowing how to stop cigarette smoking. I've done that. I smoked for about 10 years, smoking cigarettes. And then one day I stopped cold turkey. Okay? Now, knowing what I know now is information. And the whatever's laced into, like chemicals and nicotine, all that stuff that is inside the body that wants it back. The subconscious wants whatever is lacking to initiate a balance in the body, even though it's chemically induced balance. It wants it. It wants to instill it. It wants to create that heightened sense of knowledge that it has. So it makes sense to me. So now I realize what risk is. Then, for the past few days, what I did was I traded small. Even though I trade small, those small gains started to add up. And I realized this. This is account 0214. I think it's 0214. What happened was, on the first 2 days, I made 8%. I made 8%. A little over 8%. In one day. The first day I made about maybe $5 or something like that. On the second day, I made 8%. And the next day, I lost almost 5%. And then at the point of losing about 5%, what I realized is that on the last trade that I made, it almost breached my max daily loss by about $4 with a 10K account. It means that what it did was I bought here, it dropped down, and if it just wiggled a little bit, my account would have been breached. But it stopped right there. And then I sold as quickly as possible, right? And so I was able to preserve that account. Now, then subsequently, I made about 2.3%, gaining back what I lost, okay? So I'm hoping to continue on this journey this coming week to see this thesis play out, which is risk management is so important. Risk management is so important. Essentially, I lost 300 platform challenges as recently as last week. And for November, I lost $2,350, which is essentially the tax return that I had, okay? Tax refund that I had with the dishwasher money that I munched together and gave it to the rich people. So risk management is an incredibly important part in my journey, certainly. And what I've seen so far is that there is something. What I did was I essentially heard is God saying, look, you need to reduce your hours, your physical exertion. You need to reduce your physical exertion so that you can put your physical and mental energy into your day trading, because that's your future. And what directly came out of that is essentially what happened was I was able to recover my mind, and my mind was able to see. Now it is able to see. It's see what was going on, and that something that I could not see because I was going through a repetitive cycle. It's a repetitive cycle that I've been going through for over 2 years. And over 4 years, it's a repetitive cycle that I've been going through. And it had to do with risk management. Okay, I was able to make that connection, and it's all due to a sleep factor. The sleep factor is able to allow me to take the data that I have in my mind and put it together, make that connection, mental connection between what's happening and what I need to do, what's happening and uh, what I'm doing, what happened and what I'm doing, making those connections, what happened and what is happening, making the connections, and then determined that what the problem right now is called risk factor, risk management. Reflecting on the trade that I made, it's all due to, it's quite a bit. I mean, there's obviously the setup, risk management, right? Those are the two very very important factors in trading. Okay, so the setup and risk management. Okay, and the stop loss. Stop loss. Those are the very very important things that I need to be. I need to be very very aware of those three things. Okay, risk management. Okay, stop loss, and setup. Those are the three primary things that I need to be aware, to be concerned about. Those are the three things, and the main point that I have is essentially is this: there was a sleep factor that allowed me to make the connection between what I was doing, okay, what the data that I have and what I'm doing. And in order to change something, I have to look at it, critically look at it, and determine the reason behind it, and then make that critical adjustment, which I did for the past several days, which is essentially to size down because it impacts those four things. Okay, max loss, max daily loss, consistency rule, and HFT. Okay, those are the four things that are common to all. It's common to all platforms. Okay, with adjustment, with a slight variance. There's a slight variance to that, as well as the commissions and the spread. Those things impact it. So there's four too. Okay, sleep factor. It is a sleep factor that is defining. It is a sleep factor that helped me to cross over to the other side. The sleep factor.